Guys, this is the second installment of lean production. And so, one of the biggest concepts in lean production is this idea of constant improvement. And so, I want you to pay attention to that as we're thinking about this. So, for instance, with workflow analysis, we're thinking about how can we improve the workflow for um, for processes. So, in manufacturing, how do you improve the workflow? And usually this involves a flow chart. Okay, you can watch this video. It talks a little bit about how that works, but you kind of create a flow chart of how things move through a process, and then look for areas within that. It's a guide that helps you identify areas for improvement, and that's the whole idea of lean production: is to improve things incrementally along the way to make things better. So a workflow analysis can help you do that. Okay. Um, so what we're looking for is to identify areas where we can improve things, okay, where things are not done effectively and we want to improve things. So for instance, one of the things that value stream and workflow analysis can do is they can help you eliminate waste. And this is a huge issue, right? Like the more you waste, the more money you spend, the more time you waste. There's waste costs a lot of money within an organization, and that's not only because you're destroying materials that you might use in another process, but also you have to get rid of that stuff. You have to get rid of waste. It wastes time, and time is money. You've heard that. So all that stuff, waste is terrible for all of those reasons. So as much waste that you can eliminate as possible is a good thing. You want to minimize your inventory. So we've talked about this in several ways. And if we minimize inventory, you don't have to pay for space. Goes back to that whole idea of just in time rather than just in case. So the more inventory you carry, the more cost you have for storage. And then the more chance that it will go bad, it will get outdated. So there's a lot of problems with carrying excess inventory. You want to maximize flow, so you want to make sure that the inventory you do have flows through your system quickly. So that's maximizing flow. You want to make sure that you are pulling production from customer demand. So you're not making more than you need, you're making just the right amount. So that's to match the demand of the customer, because if you're not matching the demand of the customer, if you're producing too much, then you're going to have more inventory and more waste, and you're also not maximizing flow. These kind of feed on each other. You need to meet customer requirements. Okay, this goes back to minimizing waste. If you produce something and it doesn't meet what the customer requires, then you've just wasted stuff. So you've created waste, and that goes back way up to this. Okay, you're also minimizing flow. So these things feed on each other, like I keep saying. Doing it right the first time goes back to elimination of waste, right? If you make something correctly the first time, then there's less waste. You're empowering workers. So what you want to do is you want to train your workers and empower them to help make those decisions. This is going to come back in another concept that we're going to talk about called Kaizen. You're trying to get workers to be the kinds of people who notice problems, who fix problems, and then improve things. So you want to empower your workers. Unempowered workers, the opposite of this, would be workers who are not empowered to make decisions. They're not going to be invested. They're not going to want to improve systems. They're going to just basically say, well, whatever. So you want to make sure that workers have the power to suggest things, and that those suggestions are taken seriously and acted upon. You want to be able to design for rapid changeover. Markets change, things change. So you want to be able to change with a changing market. You want to make sure that you're closely partnering with your suppliers, because this also goes back to this idea of managing flow. You can't manage flow if a supplier is not giving you the correct materials that you need. So that would then feed into, okay, we're not managing our flow well, which means we're not meeting our customer requirements, et cetera, et cetera. So it has a knock-on effect. Okay, you want to create a culture of continuous improvement, and that's what Kaizen is. So you want to be saying, okay, well, how can we continuously improve our processes? And just every little step along the way. So how do you improve your processes? Okay, going with this, One way that you can actually improve processes is by having a group of products that have similar criteria, a product family, right? Some members are normally have the same common parts in assembly, and just this is a good example of that. So these are some uh, printer cores for the extruders for the MakerBots that we have in the Design Hub, and basically, we have two different types of MakerBots. We've got the Z18, which is the extruder for Z18, and then we have the replicator. And the extruders are essentially the same. They are exactly the same, except that the Z18 has this extra piece, which is just something that snaps on. You can take off this little sleeve up top here and snap one of these on here, and then you can use this extruder, the Z18 extruder, in the replicator, and you can use the replicator extruder into the Z18. Now that's good because now you don't have to produce two different extruders. You're producing one extruder, and you're using common parts and assemblies. And this helps to improve process and create lean production. So, another example of this is usually in the car industry. There's many times in the car industries where you're going to have, for instance, a chassis. A chassis is sort of the bottom part of the car where you bolt everything onto it. You'll have common chassis for different cars. And then essentially what goes on top of the chassis is going to be the different part, but what's holding it all together is going to be the same. So as much as possible, having common parts and assemblies is going to help to improve your lean production and make things more efficient. Training, you definitely want to train your employees. The higher and better quality that your employees have, the better they will be at improving processes, understanding how things work. So the more they're trained in lots of different processes, the better that they'll be. Okay, you want to try to devolve power relating to process improvement. So what that means is more of a bottom-up idea. What you want to do is you want to empower your frontline employees, so the people who are actually on the floor manufacturing things. You want to try to empower them so that they understand processes, they can make suggestions, and those suggestions filter up. Okay, and by doing that, you're getting everybody working together towards a common goal, which is to make everything better. So this bottom-up kind of idea, it's a bottom-up model of improvement. It's empowering the people who are on the front line to make decisions that can help to improve the whole process. Okay, and that's called devolution of power. Okay, so the opposite of this would be that the person at the top would make all the decisions and they would filter down. But the person at the top doesn't understand the processes as well as the people on the bottom. They're not going to see those little areas where the process can be improved because they have a balcony view and they see the whole sort of system, but what they don't see is the individual parts of the system. They don't see the minutia, the small areas where improvements can happen, and those small improvements help to make the entire process more efficient and better. Okay, so Kaizen is that philosophy of continuous process and product improvement, and you can have a quick look at this video. But this is just this idea that we need to continually improve in order to make something better and better and better, and this is going to help to make your production leaner. Okay, now there are some things to remember here. So one of the things is we have something called the 5 S's. Okay, and these are them. Okay, they have a different word for stabilizing. I think it's setup, but in this video. But the idea, they'll explain in this video what it means. But essentially what you're trying to do is you're trying to sort of make the production floor look clean and act in an efficient manner. So there's in this video they're going to talk about things like sorting. Like you basically sort what you need and what you don't need, and you put things that you need in places that you can easily find them, and things that you don't need on a regular basis away or get rid of them. You set up your space or stabilize your space so that it's most efficient. You make it look beautiful. You try to make it look nice and clean and shining. You're going to standardize things, so standardizing processes, and then you need to sustain the practice. So that means that you're going to constantly look for ways to improve and sustain and promote these practices right here. So that's called the 5S methodology, and this video explains it really well. And that takes us to our last area here in this topic. It's the 7 wastes. Okay, so these are things that we want to try to eliminate as much as possible. Now this video shows you an easy way to remember it. It's called Tim Wood, so you can remember it. So it puts these in different orders. But essentially, what you want to do is you want to try to minimize all of these things, right? So you want to minimize transportation. That would be the T, right? So minimize transportation. You want to their wording is not the same, but you want to try to minimize overproduction. You don't want to produce too much. You want to produce just the right amount. You want to reduce waiting, so you don't want things waiting around, and you don't want your clients waiting around. So you're trying to make sure that you're achieving things in a timely manner. You want to make sure that you are processing things appropriately. So that means that you are, the processes that you use are appropriate. So, we're trying to eliminate inappropriate processing. Unnecessary inventory, you want to get rid of that. Unnecessary excess motion, so anything that requires too much motion or too much movement within the process needs to be eliminated. And then defects, you want to get rid of any defects or any errors that occur. And this is just a quick way to remember that. So Tim Wood. Okay, so have a look at that video too. All right, thanks for watching, guys.